Whitton.
Hi.
I'm so excited.
Am I looking at you?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
And with Dr. Whitton, this is I call you my integrative oncologist, but on your door it says naturopathic oncologist.
Yes, it's naturopathic oncologist.
Okay, so naturopathic oncologist. So this is my naturopathic oncologist, and I'm so grateful that I found you. I found you a few months into my journey and my diagnosis. And you've been with me ever since. So I think I found you in April and I was diagnosed in January.
Yeah.
And our story started because I was looking for like-minded people who also were searching out the holistic modalities of healing. And I read the book Radical Remission, which then led me to a mutual connection.
Right.
I went to a workshop for a weekend and you were speaking at that workshop. To some other people who were going through or looking for help when it came to finding holistic remedies. And our first session, you did a thorough panel of Blood on Me. We sat down together, we had a great conversation. You spent so much time with me trying to ease my mind of my diagnosis as I was trying to figure out my direction, because then I knew that the holistic route was definitely where I wanted to go. I just didn't know how or where to even start. I had already changed my diet significantly when we had met.
Right.
I had already started meditating and I had already started exercising, but I had not started supplements when we first met, so that was something that you really helped me with, find my way to figure out what supplements were going to be beneficial. And I definitely want to talk about that because that's been a major question for people. They ask me what supplements I take, and just because I take certain supplements doesn't mean it's right for everybody, because of the way our system and our terrain and our blood flow.
Different.
Right,
Yeah,
we're all different makeups.
Biochemically.
Yes.
And also each cancer is not the same.
Right. Exactly.
So under the classification of breast cancer, depending on who is the host for the breast cancer,
right,
it's different.
Right.
So you have different proteins, you have different enzymes that kind of drive that cancer process in the individual. So we strive to create an individualized program and not a one-size-fits-all.
I love that, because I'm not knocking traditional medicine in any way, because I think there's definitely benefits to regular traditional conventional medicine. I am going to say though, I think that where the conventional way lacks is that it's kind of a one-size-fits-all situation when it comes to, this is our recommendation, this is what you need to do, you need to take this medicine, you need to have this surgery, that's what you need to do. What I appreciate most for myself during this is I feel like a complete individual. I feel like I have a little bit more control of what's going on because I understand my makeup way more significantly than I ever did before. My genetics, like we just did an extensive genetics test. You just literally tested me for everything and you sent that out, I think, to Colorado or California.
Yeah, I believe so. It was Garden 360 that we did.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we sent that out and it came back and it literally told me all the things that could potentially go wrong or not go wrong, but my genetics came back and they're looking pretty good. So that made me feel good, and I know that the conventional doctors don't really look at those things.
Well, I think the information is available to all physicians.
Everybody, yeah.
A lot of the integrative oncologists will employ this method, but I know that a lot of the conventional physicians or oncologists do not.
Right.
Because a lot of my patients who do these testing and they take the information and the results to their oncologist, and the oncologist will say, okay, this is great, but there are some guidelines that they have to follow.
Absolutely, of course.
Right, and it's the NCC and guidelines.
Yeah.
And so it dictates basically what chemotherapy agent should be used for a particular cancer. Right.
But
so,
not for a particular person.
Not for a
Because
particular
you never have
person.
any idea how one particular person
That's
is
right.
going to react to any different thing.
And that's right. So William Donald Kelly says, and I'm going to quote him.
Quote him.
He says that we are at our best when we treat the patient or the person who is the host for the cancer and not focusing on treating the cancer itself. Right? So we have to look at the individual and see what environment is making it favorable for the cancer cells to thrive.
Yes.
Okay.
And you notice the positive language you're using, like making it favorable. Like, and something that we were just talking about is just because you're diagnosed, and the reason that I share all this stuff, and I have been sharing my journey ever since basically I was diagnosed, is because I do want to remove some of the fear from the people that are diagnosed and don't know where to start. And that's something we were just talking about, is the fear really truly takes over. And you just said to me, which is so beautiful, is cancer is not a death sentence.
No, it's not.
And people come in and they're like, and I'm not taking, because I definitely had my days of emotional disbelief and shock, because that obviously comes when you're told anything is wrong. But you just use the words favorable, and it doesn't have to be like, oh my gosh, I have cancer, everything is wrong with me. It just means that there's something not working somewhere that we can shift or change. And what would you say, let's start here. What would you start off by saying to a brand new patient, like who wasn't me, who was already had my mindset that I was gonna take the holistic route? What would you say to a patient coming in who has seen the conventional doctors, and the conventional doctors has told them that this is the way that it needs to be, and they're so scared because now their whole life is going to be turned upside down because they're going to feel sick, they're going to go through treatment. Like, what would you say, like, to ease their minds? Yeah.
Well, I always encourage patients to look at taking an integrative approach, right? An approach that involves all aspects of who they are.
Right.
Mind, body, and spirit, right? Because, your head is not connected from your body. We're all energetic beings, right? And so whatever happens in one area of your body affects the other. And so what we strive to do is to create harmony, right, within the body at all times. And I really try to stay away from and avoid the words, the fight against cancer, or attacking, and all these negative terms, because what we want to strive to do is just recreate harmony within the body. And so cancer comes to tell us that something is not quite right.
Right.
Something is
out of balance,
right, and creating disharmony. And so we now are at our best when we create a program that looks at all aspects of who we are and find out where the disharmony is in the system.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So also I wanted to ask, can you just kind of go into what a naturopathic oncologist is for those who don't know? Because some people have asked me, or because they're not certain of what it is, have been like, well, that's not a real doctor. A real doctor is the doctor that studies the medical guidelines, the science, but listen, you're the most scientific person I've ever met. Literally, like the way that you look at my body, every time we sit down together, I feel like I just had a full biology, chemistry, education. I literally walk away so empowered because the way that you break things down and you walk through every single blood test with me, and you explain what could be causing each initial, like if I'm low in vitamin D, or if I'm low in iodine, or if I'm low in some kind of enzyme or something, you usually break it down for me to explain why I'm low in it, and then you tell me how to fix it. And then the next time we do the blood work, literally everything is fixed. And this last time we did the blood work from post-surgery, everything was level. And you said it was great news.
It was.
And I, of course, walked into that appointment feeling like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I had just had surgery 2 months ago. I'm getting my blood work done. What's it going to show? But it showed nothing. It showed beautiful balance and harmony because of all the things that I've been doing. So what is a naturopathic oncologist exactly? And talk about a little bit about what you studied and what you continue to study to enhance your knowledge, so that people understand.
Absolutely. So first I want to start off by saying, right, that the physician resides within each and every one of us.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, hey, we're our own doctors.
That's the physician. That's where the physician lies.
Yeah. Okay.
We are facilitators,
Yes.
right? So those of us who pursue medicine, we are facilitators that we assist the patient in connecting to the physician within, right?
Okay.
So I'll start off by saying that. But
That's
I do
beautiful.
come from a background where I studied biology pre-med and minored in organic chemistry.
Yeah. Organic chemistry,
Right.
beautiful.
So I do come from a scientific background, and I also did an externship at Lawrence Hospital in Bronxville in Westchester County. And my thesis for undergraduate was in growth cancers and cancer.
Her thesis was in
growth
cancers, growth factors
right,
in cancer. Yeah.
So I've been aware of that for quite a long time. And so after that, I went into teaching, and then from teaching, I went into becoming a naturopathic medicine. But I do have to say that my background comes from my mom, my heritage. That we were raised with herbs and homeopathic remedies, and
Your
healthy
mom instilled
diet.
that into you right from the beginning.
Absolutely, from the beginning. And in
Beautiful.
fact, when I lived in New York, I had a business that was called Eve's Botanicals,
Ooh.
where we were creating medicinal teas. But of course, and I won't mention what department came knocking on the door and saying that.
What department?
You really can't do this, and you can't make claims, which I understand. You can't make claims. That
And we're
you're-
not making claims.
Exactly.
We're just trying to educate.
Exactly, and education is the key. But they said, you can't make claims that, these herbs can do this or that, because you really don't have any credentials. And I completely understood that. And so I said, well, I'm going to have to work on getting the credentials.
And then you did.
And so that's what I did. So I studied at the University of Bridgeport's College of Naturopathic Medicine, and that
Here in
is
Connecticut.
here in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And so that, I know there are other online programs there, for NDs, but we are a clinical program. We're an accredited program, and one of, I think, maybe 5 or 6 accredited naturopathic clinical programs in the United States and northern United States, so Canada also.
Oh, Canada also.
Exactly.
I'm from Canada, so.
So also as a part of my education, I did an externship at the Cancer Treatment Centers of America in Philadelphia.
Amazing.
So yeah.
You're
and
savvy. She's savvy. She's got credentials.
But in addition to that also, again, when cancer came to our family personally.
For your mom, right?
Exactly. So my mom was diagnosed with metastatic pancreatic cancer, which we know is a very
serious,
aggressive
yeah.
cancer and very debilitating, lots
Yeah.
of suffering.
Yes.
But I can say that she didn't have that.
Yes.
Right? Because we all are led by divine guidance if we quiet ourselves enough.
I talk about that a lot, my spirituality and my meditation and my writing,
Yeah.
it all comes out that way, and I feel so much more connected to myself.
Yeah. So, I started teaching after receiving my naturopathic degree, and I was quite happy doing that, making a lucrative living, doing, both of my loves.
And
Which
you were
was
teaching biology.
I was
right?
teaching,
Science?
yeah, I was teaching science,
Yes.
and for a medical assisting program, and then all of a sudden, I just felt guided, and I call this divine guidance.
One of your students said something to you. I remember you telling
Absolutely.
me
In
this
high school,
story.
yeah, in high school when I was teaching high school, and it was a group of boys from shop.
Yeah.
And so they were generous enough to share with me. We were talking about goals, dreams, and aspirations. And so they cooperated, bless them, and they shared with me, what they inspired to be. And at the end of it all, and there's always one, I say, in a group, and he looked me in the eye and said to me, so, miss, what are your goals and what are your aspirations? And so I said, well, what leads you to believe that I'm not doing what I aspired to be? And he goes, nah, I don't think so. And at that point,
He was like a messenger, wasn't he?
Exactly.
In that moment?
that
That
definitely,
was your
that was my
snap
switch.
into it, yeah.
Exactly. And so it made me really look at myself and self-reflect.
Yeah.
And with children, you have to be completely honest, because, they're not as tainted as we are as we get older, right? So they tend to be more connected with spirit. And so, and I said to him, you know what, you're absolutely right. I said, I always wanted to be a doctor. And he said, well, miss, why aren't you doing it? And so here we are. Here we are.
So your mother inspired you to go this route.
Exactly.
And this child in high school that you were
Yeah.
teaching inspired you to go this route.
Yeah.
And here you are helping all of these patients. You have a very prosperous practice. Like, she's got a doctor's office. You go in, you do the vitals, she checks your weight, like it's the whole thing.
It's a clinical practice.
Yes, it's a clinical practice. All the things happen there.
Yeah.
And I really love everything that you offer there, and we'll get into that. So I think that was clear enough for what a naturopathic oncologist is.
So let me just. So
Okay.
it's we're naturopathic physicians who go on to study more about the science of oncology. And so we kind of meld what we learn in terms of our modalities, in terms of creating a holistic treatment program for the patient. And it's basically designed to see the patient as a whole. As you're sitting in front of me, like I'm connecting with you energetically, right? So we're not just focusing on the tumor itself, we're looking at you as a whole and all aspects of you. And so there is a group called the Oncology Association of Naturopathic Physicians, and it was founded by naturopaths. And so we knew and we wanted to basically combine conventional treatments for oncology with what we know as naturopaths, just to kind of create or optimize the outcomes for the patient.
I want to add to something you just said, because you said we don't look at just the tumor. We look at the person as a whole. And I think when people are diagnosed, I can speak for myself and my own personal experience with cancer from, my family members who have had it, and close friends, and my ex-husband. Like, I've been around it a lot. And I think that what happens is when people are diagnosed, they think the cancer is something different than themselves.
Right.
Like we think that the cancer or the tumor isn't part of us. Like, it's something that's trying to hurt us or something that's trying to cause conflict in us. So we just want to get rid of it. And that's the way that we look at it. But if you really think about it, and this is what I've learned on my process, is for me, this cancer, right away from the very beginning of it, I embraced it because I knew that it was part of me trying to tell me something.
Right.
Trying to say something's going on that needs your attention right now. And because of that, we sit here today, and I'm still on my road to healing and recovery, but I do not have cancer anymore. And yes, we removed the cancer, and I want to talk about that because I did not want to have surgery at all.
Yes. Yeah, we know.
So, and people think that naturopathic oncologists just do things one way and don't recommend the things that they think are right under the circumstances of all the information that they gather.
Exactly.
Correct?
Exactly.
That's not the truth. Because what happens is, I've had many appointments with you monthly and almost monthly, and I said I was not having surgery.
Right.
Like, I was not.
Yeah, you were adamant.
I was really adamant.
Yeah.
It was not happening. I wasn't doing it. I was going to heal this cancer without the help of surgery. And we sat in September pre-surgery, and you said to me, my naturopathic oncologist said to me, because of all the evidence that was placed in front of you,
Exactly.
said to me, I think it's time for us to entertain the idea of a lumpectomy if we can find a surgeon to do it.
Right.
And I was mad at you.
Yeah, I know. But that was okay.
And that was okay.
It was okay.
Because I didn't like what I heard, and and that's all stuff that I'm working through and I've had to work through, but I didn't love not having this end up the way that I thought it was going to end up. So we ended up going through that whole process to remove the tumor, and you said to me, we're not removing, we've already gotten to the root of the things,
Mm-hmm.
because your blood work shows, like all the tests we've done have shown your body, your health, everything that you've done up until this point, you've prepared your body for the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
So you said to me, I think you're ready.
Yes, and I knew that.
And
Absolutely.
you did know it.
Yeah.
And then you said to me, when we remove this mass, it is going to allow your body the rest of the ability to heal properly, because it's not working so hard. Your immune system is not working so hard to I want to say like disintegrate or disperse or basically break down
Right.
the tumor, because there has been proof and science that there have been people who have been able to heal completely holistically with their tumor breaking down in their body and their liver and their lymph node system, all basically processing and working it through.
Yeah.
That didn't happen for me.
Right.
But it doesn't mean it couldn't have happened for me in time. And when we did have surgery and removed the tumor, the evidence after with the pathology was the tumor was dead.
Yeah. The majority of it.
The majority
was
was completely necrosed.
Yeah.
So it was hard and black, and there was certain parts of it that were still.
It was encapsulated,
which was beautiful. So
Yeah.
my body was ready. So
Yeah.
you were right, but you're not here to tell people that conventional medicine is wrong. You're just here to figure out what the right thing for each individual person is because of their levels and what's going on in their body. So I want to say that because I think that's really important, because you were the only reason, really one of the only reasons that I even entertained surgery, because it was coming from you also. It wasn't coming from a traditional doctor. All the traditional doctors I didn't want to listen to really, but when it came from you, I knew that you had such a good handle on what was going on inside me that I was like, okay, well, if Dr. Whitton's saying it now, then I guess I'm gonna have to entertain this. And I did, and it was a great experience, thankfully, and we found a great surgeon who you had communicated with. And that's the other thing, Dr. Whitton has been so happy to communicate with all of my physicians. Everybody, you've been amazing.
Well, that's the thing. It
You're
has
a
to be.
team.
It should be a team perspective.
Yes.
Right. And I always say to patients when they have a diagnosis, you want to pick your team well, which you
Yes.
did, and I give you credit for doing
Thank
that,
you.
doing your due diligence.
Thank you.
But I think we pay less attention in selecting our oncologists than we would somebody who's coming in to clean our home or coming in to babysit our children. Right.
Right.
We interview them more strictly.
Right.
And we
Yes.
ask for more things from them and
Yes.
credentials from them, but we don't do the same thing in selecting our oncologist or our team.
Right.
And that's something that should be done. And I say to patients also to empower them that your team of physicians work for you.
Right.
And so you are in the position at any given time to hire or fire your team, right? So that's the thing, and you have to trust your instinct and your divine guidance and the wisdom of your body to know and to communicate with you what's right and what's wrong.
I love it.
And I think a lot of times when patients are diagnosed, they go in, when they receive the diagnosis, and first of all, they're not given anything to kind of reduce the impact of that news on their psyche and on their bodies, right? I think everybody should be given rescue remedy or something to kind of cushion the blow of that news, right? And with that news immediately comes fear. And so with that fear now, you're in a space where it's kind of like an out-of-body experience. And so now you're being guided, you're being taken by the hand, and you're being told, okay, tomorrow we're going to do surgery. And then right after that, we're going to do chemotherapy and so forth and so on. And without really having the time to absorb what you've been told, or having the time to kind of figure out what cancer do I have? How does this work? What drives it? Just basically getting basic information to empower yourself so that when you do make a decision, it can be a decision that comes from being informed.
I love it. And I did that.
And
I did that 100%. I
Absolutely.
literally from my initial first oncology appointments, and the way that you explained it was literally, it was like bam, 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 test, test, test. This is the news. This is what you got. We need to have surgery right away. You need to do 6 months to 9 months of chemotherapy. Like, this is what I was told I needed to do. And that never felt right to me at all. But the rush was so there. The doctors wanted it now. This is the window. That is the words that they used for me. My window has been a wide open door, people. I have literally blown the window and the whole wall right open because I took my time. I did not limit myself by a window because somebody told me I had a window. I instead empowered myself and took time to learn more about what my cancer was and educate myself, and that was prior to me even meeting you.
Right.
I had done those things.
Yeah, which was fantastic. And I find that patients who come to me being well informed, they tend to do best.
Yes.
Okay, because you're making your decision from an informed place,
Right.
And so you're at peace with that decision.
Yes.
Right. And even with any placebo, if you believe that something is
Right,
going to work for
exactly.
you, then it will.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that's important. I find.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we already talked about the steps. Okay, so I think this is really important because I've had a lot of people reach out to me lately with certain health issues, asking me personal questions privately, asking me, I have this thing, I found a lump, my doctor's sending me for an ultrasound, I'm having this inflammation, I have this discomfort, like what supplements do you recommend? I want you, from your expertise, to maybe let people know right now what they can do for prevention, or if they were newly diagnosed, which you actually just said, empower yourself. That's number one.
Get to know the cancer that you have, right?
Yes.
Get to know that diagnosis.
Yes.
Right. And so Jane McClelland, who's a young woman from the UK.
I'm gonna meet her.
Isn't that exciting?
I'm gonna meet this woman. She wrote a book, How to Starve Cancer.
Yeah,
Yes.
I met her at the last Annie Appleseed conference that I spoke at.
Yeah.
Well, I saw her there. We weren't quite introduced, but then through email.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell her when I see her, because I'm going to do some interviews with her. So I'll be like, Dr. Whitton's my doctor.
But that's what she did. Basically, she went on to PubMed, which we all have access to.
Yeah, PubMed.
And Google Scholar. And these are reputable sources of scientific information, right? And so she tells people to go online and look up the metabolic phenotype of your cancer, right?
Say that again.
The metabolic phenotype,
Okay.
which basically means what are the proteins and enzymes that are driving this cancer process, right? So you get an idea of that. And that's a place to start by empowering yourself. The other thing is, you really can't, even with all the information that's available, it can become overwhelming.
It is very overwhelming.
And it can create stress, right? And so that's not what we want, because stress again contributes to that whole,
On a scientific level, can you just talk about how stress, because some people are like, cancer doesn't come from stress. If I do all the research and reading I've done for triple negative, cancer is actually fed by stress and sugar.
It does.
And
also glutamine, and it can use ketones, and it can, because cancer cells are very savvy.
Yes.
If you block one pathway,
it'll figure out
another way, etc. So, what we want to do is create kind of an individualized approach, and that's why testing is very necessary. And so we kind of look at, what nutrients your body is deficient in, and we can tell that on a cellular level, because what's in the blood doesn't necessarily mean what's being absorbed and utilized or being made available for the cells, right? So we kind of look at where there are deficiencies or borderline deficiencies, and we kind of replete those.
Yes.
But again, going by what provides fuel for the cancer cells, we know that glucose is one of them.
Yes.
We know that glutamine is one of them, and we know that fats can possibly feed the cancer cells. So the idea is to create a program of supplements, and it's not, and again, this is individualized. So there are some supplements that we can say, has a benefit in all areas, right, of the cancer process. One of them being melatonin, of course, curcumin. Green tea, EGCG, green tea extract. But what we want to do is always create an individualized program for the patient.
And reduce people feeling stressed and overwhelmed while getting and receiving all of this information.
So the basic place to start would be to look at, what are you eating, right? Because your food feeds the cells. Okay, so that would be, if I were to tell anybody, the place to start is to look at what you're eating. Okay, look at your lifestyle. Is it a lifestyle that's highly stressful? Is it a lifestyle that's toxic? Right? So toxic
people in your life, negative language.
I was just going to say that. Toxicity doesn't just necessarily mean
in
water
or
air or what what's in your food. It can be toxic people as well. And so it's necessary, to remove sometimes certain people from your life. And it's okay. You can do that. You can love them from a distance.
Absolutely.
That's okay.
It's not personal.
Right.
That's the thing, and I try to explain that because, I've had to distance myself from a lot of people, and I've had my ups and downs with my family, and a lot of things have happened this year, and I just have to say, and I have to keep reminding myself too, this isn't personal. Like I'm not doing this against you. I'm doing this for myself because whatever is happening in this relationship is just not serving me to the best that it can, because I don't feel peaceful.
Right.
And that's
Peace is really important. And again, people can create a source of distraction. Right, where there's just too much noise. And so just finding a place where you can be quiet. Just quiet the mind and connect to the God within.
My favorite thing that you said to me is, I was all in my head after surgery, and then you had just done my blood work, and you said to me that all I prescribe for you right now is you to go spend some time in nature. And that's what you prescribed to me.
That's a prescription.
You're like, you need to get outside, you need to walk, take your dogs out, just literally just connect to nature, and you will find everything that you're looking for, and the peace will come.
The answers will come and the peace
And
will
it's true. And so that I always come back to that because that is the best thing you ever prescribed me. It's beautiful. So resources that will empower people, you just said the PubMed.
Definitely. PubMed and Google Scholar.
Scholar.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
and
because
those are the two ones.
Right. So going online, not all the information that you find will be truthful.
Yes.
Okay. And so that's why it's really important to find somebody like a naturopathic or an integrative physician to kind of help you to put all the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle together, and then just kind of to sieve through the information that really is not truthful or not beneficial.
Right.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of, people, or there's information that can kind of try to capitalize upon, people who have a cancer diagnosis. So it's really important to have a team or have a group of people who can help you to kind of sort through this information.
And then any books?
There are some really good ones in terms of
William, you Eat Right for Disease is one that you recommended.
Exactly, and that's William Lee. Also, Dr. Paul Anderson has a book that's called Think Outside the Box. And Dr. Nasha Winters with the metabolic approach to cancer. So again, as naturopathic oncologists, we all stand on the shoulders of giants who came before us, even Dr. William Donald Kelly, the late Dr. Gonzalez, right? So these are people who have devoted and dedicated their lives, and some of them still doing that, to the business of healing cancer. Maybe because, and most likely because they've been touched personally by this disease. Maybe they've had the diagnosis themselves, as in the case of Dr. Nasha Winters. Or maybe having, people in their family. Like for me, it was my mother. So there is a force that drives us.
And truthfully, for me, it was my mother too. I was my mother's caregiver, and my mom still is on her journey with her cancer, and But the reason I chose to go a different route is because I saw her situation, and I didn't want that same situation for myself. And that's what's driven me to bring more education to people out there that are looking, and to educate myself along the way so that I don't feel that fear. Not that it doesn't come up, because it does, but at least I can snap out of it faster and it doesn't consume me, which is amazing.
Another one I want to mention, because that's really important, you know, in terms of the mind-body connection, is Dr. Bruce Lipton with the biology of belief.
Biology
I
of
love
belief.
that.
I have that book on my shelf.
Again,
That's
there's
such a great
in
book.
terms of providing hope to people, there's radical remission.
Yes, that's what I started with. That was my Bible. And Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Exactly.
Yes. What is his? I'm reading it right now. Becoming Supernatural. Just for mindset purposes, staying strong in the mind, because it is very hard when you feel like your body is failing you to stay strong in your mindset and in your heart and still have that connection between mind and body. That's why things are so important, like yoga and meditation and reading and finding that peace and quiet in nature. It's beautiful.
So we do provide resources for our patients, a whole list of books that we recommend for patients to just kind of read and just start to kind of prepare themselves for the journey, because it is a journey.
You know, I have to credit you, because you see a lot of people, and I've been in your office at times, and I see a lot of people who have lost hope because they've gone the traditional way, and sometimes it fails them.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes it does. And then they find you, and then they want you to save them. So what do you say or feel in that circumstance? Because that can't be easy. I had a conversation with a lady in your office, and she had had cancer 3 times. And this time the doctor said there's just nothing that they can do. And she came to find you hopelessly.
Yeah.
And it's very aggressive and severe what she's going through, because her immune system is completely broken because of all the stuff she has put her body through because of the recommendations. And you know, where do you go from there? Like, how do you bring that hope back to those people who don't want to die, who really just want to thrive and stay alive and find the encouragement and the knowledge that they need, but they're broken? How do you do that? Because that's hard, and I've seen it happen.
Yeah, it's difficult, and that's why we always say, you know, we encourage patients to integrate their care from the very onset of their diagnosis, because by integrating your care, you know, from a naturopathic point of view, there are things that we can do to kind of fortify the body, right? And to kind of, exactly, and to mitigate the toxicity from the chemotherapy agent, whatever that agent may be. Each class of a therapeutic or each class of chemotherapy comes with its own side effects.
Right.
So as a trained naturopathic physician, we know that. We know the chemo agents, and we know how to kind of protect the patient who is going to be undergoing chemotherapy by, you know, giving them protocols that will kind of mitigate the toxicity.
Which is beautiful.
So that's why I encourage patients to take that approach, because chemotherapy is very toxic and it produces a huge burden to the immune system.
And all the organs.
Exactly, and the organs, right? So you want to kind of fortify the body before you go into those treatments, and that's the best approach. The other thing we know that conventional medicine, there are questions, let me go to that. There's a list of questions that I encourage patients to ask their oncologist. Believe Big, the organization, nonprofit.
Yeah, you talk about that very
exactly.
often.
They provide. They're in Maryland, I believe.
Yeah.
They provide information for patients, a list of 10 questions, and I think Chris Walk also
those
makes
are my
that
questions.
right. He makes that available.
40 questions.
Exactly, on his website.
Yeah.
But you really need to know what questions to ask.
Yes.
And so one thing I, would like to know before I, decided to go through chemo, if I were a patient, is, what are the what is the percentage of patients who take this chemotherapy, how many of them are cured? And what is the definition of cure?
What is
You
the
know,
definition of
because
cure?
a lot of people are misled by, they think if I do this and I'm cured, then cured means forever without cancer.
It's interesting
right?
because someone just said to me, they asked, well, I don't understand. My girlfriend is in remission right now because she had triple negative, she had a double mastectomy, she had chemotherapy and radiation, but what are you? Are you in remission? And I actually didn't know how to answer that question. And I actually try not to label myself in any way other than right now I know I'm cancer free. Just like she knows she's cancer free right now.
Right now.
That's all
Right.
I know.
Yeah.
Right now
Right
in this
now.
moment,
In the
I'm
moment.
cancer free.
Right.
And right now she's cancer free.
Right. So, most oncologists, will tell you that, if you're 5 years without cancer returning, that can be a definition of cure. So you need to make sure that you understand, what that would be to you. How many years will you have if you
And
take
I think
this?
a lot of the people that are coming to you haven't asked those questions,
No, because
right?
unless somebody kind of tells you or sits down with you,
Or you look for the
or you
research.
look for the resources, how are you going to know,
Right.
right? So people are under the impression that if they go through chemotherapy and radiation, that the cancer will never return,
Right.
right? And so we see people 13 years out, where there was no evidence of disease, we call that NED, now coming in either with a new cancer or a
A new
recurrence.
cancer, and that's what happens a lot.
Right,
from-
or a recurrence.
Yeah.
So the goal, and I would advise anybody who has a cancer diagnosis, please, 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 integrate your care. Seek to integrate
Tell
your care.
them, please, please, please.
Seek to integrate your care.
Integrate your care. Absolutely. So how can people find you, Dr. Whitton?
Well,
Where are you?
we're in Madison. It's Adonai Optimal Health and Wellness. We're at 11 Woodland Road in Madison on the second floor. And the website is AdonaiOHW.
I'll put it all in my blog too.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll put all of Dr. Whitton's information in my blog. Madison, Connecticut is about an hour from where I am here in Stanford, and so it's not too bad. And you've had people come from all over. I was just in your office 3 weeks ago, and there was a lady from Canada who came to help her son. So people are finding you, which is amazing because I think more and more people are looking for alternatives. And I think people just want to feel good. And I think that's what you do. You help people feel good.
Well, there's always hope. And I always tell people when they come in and they're just so tense because they're afraid, right?
Yeah.
There's fear. And so I just tell them, take a deep breath, and we do some breath work together before we start.
We have done it many times.
Exactly. and I let them know that there's always hope. I've never seen one patient come in to see me that had an expiration stamped on their forehead.
Oh,
So
that
that's
too.
a place to start.
Like, just because you're told because of a statistic that you're terminal or that there's no hope, basically, doesn't mean that that's the truth.
There's
We
always
have
hope.
the power right within us to decide what our destiny is. In these cases, we get to decide. Unless it's like a tragic accident where a bus hits us, like that's something different. But in this case, this really is a wake-up call. This is really something's going on, wake up and fix what's going on in your life so that you can thrive and live better. And that's it.
Yeah. And create a team of practitioners.
Yeah.
Right. So you want your oncologist to be on board naturally because your oncologist is gonna, order those diagnostic tests for you and will manage your chemo if that's the way you want to go. You want an integrative oncologist or a naturopathic oncologist. You want somebody who's going to work with you in terms of energy, balancing your energy because we're all energetic beings.
Yes.
Okay. And then you want somebody
And
who's
energy
going to
like Reiki, acupuncture, things
and
like that.
yeah, definitely. Just realigning your energy,
Yeah.
right? Because we know that, all cells have, if they're healthy, they have a particular charge.
Yes.
And they spin at a certain frequency.
Yes.
And so when cells are not well, that all changes, right? So we know that we can, with the right practitioner, we can create a balance, an energetic balance in the body. And then you want to work with somebody who, will help you to kind of address your, the mind, body aspect of who you are. Exactly.
Yes.
There's, we find with a lot of tumors and a lot of cancer diagnoses, there is conflict.
Yes.
And Dr. Geir Hamer, who was a German physician and scientist, kind of mapped the emotional connection with cancers. And so we always give
the trauma that we hold on to.
Exactly. We always give that information to patients. And I find that, we sit with our patients for 2 hours, right? A 2-hour intake. And I always find that at the very end, maybe 5 minutes before the end of the session, that's when everything starts coming forward, right? So we need to, as physicians, give our patients time to share that story. And 15-20 minutes will not suffice.
No, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're
I really
welcome.
appreciate you sitting with me. I appreciate your care towards me.
Thank you.
I honestly could not have gone through this whole entire year without you on this journey with me. You are the spearhead of my team, and I am just beyond thankful that I have someone so brilliant in my corner who really is aligned with my heart's purpose and mission. And I hope that, my work, as it grows, will inspire more people to find people like you on their own journeys. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and I thank you for doing your due diligence and empowering yourselves. And it's more favorable for the practitioner when the patient comes to you already being empowered. We don't try to, convince anybody of anything, because that never works.
It never works.
And then
you do it when you're ready.
Exactly.
Yes.
I always, when I get a phone call and it's the sister of the patient or, the daughter of the patient, I always say, well, have the patient call me.
Yeah.
Right? Because there and then you take the first step towards empowerment.
Yes. So take the first step towards empowerment. Thank you so much. Read the blog and find Dr. Whitton online.